Good morning, Ajax, and welcome to our final installment of the At Home with Ajax Council series. My name is Rachel Rafe, and I'm with Corporate Communications with the town of Ajax, and it's my pleasure to welcome all of you today. If you're there, please give us a like, give us a heart, share this feed right now with all of your followers. It's a great opportunity to connect with the mayor today, as well as our other special guests. If you're following along on social media, please use the hashtag #StrongerTogether. We have a very exciting hour planned, and we're going to be welcoming very shortly Mayor Sean Collier, as well as our local MP, Mark Holland, and our Minister of Finance and local MPP, the Honorable Rod Phillips. I'd just like to remind everyone, if you have been joining us over the last 2 weeks for these series, that you can ask your questions in the comment section below. And please note that any public health related questions are best directed to our local Durham Region Public Health, as well as the Ministry of Ontario. We will do our best to answer all of your questions today, and if we're not able to, we will respond in the comment section. So I'd just like to welcome our first speaker today, Mayor Sean Collier. Hi, Sean.
Good morning,
how are
everyone.
you?
Thanks, Rachel. I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Just to get us started, I'm just going to welcome everybody on here, and then we'll go into opening remarks. I'd like to welcome on our local MP, the Honorable Mark Holland.
Hi, how you doing? Good to be here.
And I'd also like to welcome on our local MPP, Rod Phillips, Minister of Finance.
Hi, folks. Hi, Rachel.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this morning. And I'm just going to turn it right over to the mayor to welcome everyone.
Well, good morning, everyone. And thank you very much for joining us today. I want to thank MP Holland and Mr. Phillips also for joining us this morning. I know how busy your schedules are and how all of Ontario and Canada are looking for your caucuses to provide guidance, reassurance, and relief. So I just want to tell you that we appreciate everything you're doing. I know it's a lot of long days. We're glad to have you here with us today. As for me, I'm really looking forward to connecting with residents in this more casual and fun format and to answering some questions. And I'm not going to take a lot of time. I'll turn it back over to you, Rachel. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you so much. And we'd now like to welcome on MP Mark Holland.
Thanks so much, Rachel. It's wonderful to be here. I want to thank the town of Ajax and Mayor Collier for the opportunity to take your questions today. I hope you're keeping well. I know these are incredibly trying times, but I think we've got increasingly good news to share, and look forward to taking your questions and talking about that today.
Thank you so much, and I'd like to turn it over to Minister Phillips.
Great to be here today. Thanks to Mayor Collier. Thanks as well to the members of council and all the people of the town of Ajax who've been doing such a great job keeping our community safe and healthy as we go through this challenging time. Really looking forward to the conversation today. Really looking forward to hearing questions and getting a chance to talk about how we are starting to move forward and the success we've been having in terms of COVID-19, both locally across the province and across the country. So I look forward to it. And again, Sean, thank you for the invitation.
Well, thank you all again so much for joining us. We have about 60 people who are watching the live stream. I'd just like to remind everyone, ask your questions below in the comment section and we'll get right to your questions shortly. So before we get started, I would just like to introduce our Stronger Together video, just as all the great positive and inspiring things that are happening in our community. It's such an inspiring video of how the community has really come together during COVID-19 here in Ajax. In that video, we did see a ton of local businesses who have really stepped up to support the community during this time. So my first question is from Chris Wheeler, and we'll start with Sean, and then we'll move to Mark and Rod to answer this question. What are we doing to support businesses as they begin to reopen? Sean?
Thanks, Chris, for the question. Our economic development team is working closely with the region of Durham on an economic recovery plan. Mostly we have to follow the lead from the province and the federal government, but what we're doing locally is working with them. We're putting together a number of different things, events, type of things that we can do to still maintain our distancing, but also allow things to open slowly and get more people out to support the local businesses. In Ajax, we've so far also been doing our Shop Local program. We've been really doing everything we can to encourage people to order out or order takeout and do everything we can to support our local businesses as well. And once we do reach recovery, I'll let Minister Phillips speak about the things that may be opening this weekend, which I think we're all looking forward to, but we'll be following that. But the main message that I want to say is I want it to be slow. I think we have to do this in a very measured way. Otherwise, I think we may go backwards.
And I'd just like to pass that over to Mark.
Sure. Well, Chris, thanks for what you're doing. Small businesses really are, particularly for Ajax, the driver of our economy, but they're so important across the country. And this has been an incredibly challenging time for small businesses. So there's a number of things that we've been doing at a federal level. The first is the 75% wage subsidy program. So to ensure that businesses are able to keep those employees on and not have to lay people off, we're providing 75% of the wage subsidized. We're extending that program. There is been fantastic uptake. It's covering 2 million employees. Over 120,000 businesses have availed themselves of this program. The other program we have is the work share program with EI. Again, if you're in a situation where you might lay somebody off, being able to be flexible and use EI to keep a person rather than lay them off. We have a number of different business credit facilities that are available. In fact, we are giving $65 billion out in loans to businesses and generally large-scale tax deferrals as well to help businesses out and get through this period of time. The other thing that is more recent and incredibly important is the rent assistance program, which provides up to 75% assistance for commercial rent to make sure businesses don't lose their place. So we're trying to provide a number of different measures in place, as Rod's going to be talking about that opening up that's occurring, making sure that we have the financial bridge to get people through this crisis period back into a regular normal business period as we move through those stages.
Thank you very much.
So thanks, Rachel. And we have been working quite closely with both Mark and the federal government, as well as with Sean locally. So a number of initiatives. We've deferred about $10 billion worth of taxes, WSIB costs, employer health taxes. The federal government also had a significant program of deferrals. The property taxes that the town was able to defer, again, helped enable that. $300 savings for most businesses because of moving to time of use pricing. Mark mentioned the federal programs. I have to say I've been very supportive of that and enjoyed working with Mark and our colleagues in Ottawa. The rent subsidy program is something that the provincial governments across the country aligned with the federal government to provide that support. Also on the micro level, supports in areas like allowing Sean mentioned about the takeaway, which has been so important to supporting a local restaurant. To be part of that so that restaurants could deliver alcohol along with that. Now, on the bigger picture, of course, what we all would like is a safe reopening of our small and large businesses. And today's an important day. I'd encourage everybody, if you have the time, to tune in at 1 o'clock, where myself, the Premier, Minister Elliott will be doing our regular update and briefing. But we're also in a position, because of the great work that everybody has done across the province in terms of flattening the curve, to start to talk now about the first stage of that recovery. We laid out about 2.5 weeks ago a very methodical, very, I would say, cautious, but informed by our health professionals approach, that would see the province of Ontario open up in 3 stages. The first of which would see the opening of lower risk businesses, and then moving through the progression, but with time in between each stages, so that the science and health people could observe what happens as we open up. So later today, we're going to be able to announce both the date and the businesses that are going to be open in that first stage. It's a very important step. It is a great, I think, to start to move into that phase in a cautious way. We also had the report on cases province-wide that has come out today, and it's the lowest number of cases we've seen now in over 6 weeks, which again was one of the preconditions we set to wanting to see the case levels going down, making sure that our hospitals have the capacity to deal with any upticks that happen as a result of this, making sure we have the contact tracing in place. So that will be, of course, the best help we can give our small and medium and large businesses and all of us to be able to start to open the economy again, but very much on the theme that the Mayor said, we're doing that in the safe way, informed by public health and science advice, making sure we put that at the forefront of the opening up of the small businesses and large.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you very much. My next question is from Mary. Mary wants to know what measures are in place to help seniors. And she's looking for information from the local, the provincial, and the federal level. So we'll start with you, Sean.
Well, we've just rolled out our new seniors call program. It actually was just announced yesterday, a way to help engage seniors at the same time as still maintain distancing. We've also had our call program from the town. We've had, I believe, people from REC, I think it is, have been calling out and touching base and making sure people are okay. We have had the caremongers groups that have been very, very successful in reaching out to people and helping them get their prescriptions, get their groceries, whatever needs to be done. So the community's really rallied and really come together, as well as people are, like, for me personally, I shop for all my parents' groceries, for instance. So people have really come together in that to take care of each other and help out where needed. So, I mean, there's not much else we could do for seniors municipally right now with the distancing. One thing that we were able to do, thank you to the province, was reopen the community gardens, which is something that people really wanted. And as well as the outdoor centers, because again, a lot of people, and I'll use my folks as an example, as seniors, love to be out in the garden and love to do that type of work. So those are a couple of the things.
And over to Mark.
Thanks so much. Absolutely. Even though seniors might be on fixed incomes that aren't being affected, there are a lot of additional costs that are going up, and we recognize that. So we've made a couple of announcements that I think are really going to help during this crisis. One of the last announcement, I think, was just yesterday or the day before, by the Prime Minister, stating that we're going to expand the tax-free payment for anybody receiving OAS by a one-time a bonus of $300. And if you're getting both GIS and OAS, that'll be $500. This is on top of the GST credit that came in April that would have seen seniors provided with $375 for a single senior, $510 for couples. So if you're a senior couple and you're in a moderate income situation, you're economically vulnerable, you could see up to $1,500 in relief through the combination of those programs. We also have been very concerned about making sure that seniors get the prescriptions and the food that they need, because we know it's they're isolated. So we've been working with not only United Way, but through a variety of different local charities. We've provided over $350 million to make sure that medications, grocery delivery, transportation services, and other help gets to seniors when they need it. We reduced the minimum withdrawal requirement from RIFs by 25% to help seniors access additional savings, and we're obviously so grateful for all the work that's being done by healthcare providers to take care of seniors and to do all we can. It's been devastating, the impact, particularly in long-term care facilities. So we want to keep working, obviously, with the province, who's been doing a wonderful job to try to deal with that, because that's been one of the most devastating elements of this disease, for sure.
And over to Rod.
Thank you. And just to pick up where Mark left off, one of the things that we've done in collaboration with the federal government with regards to retirement homes and to our long-term care facilities is been able to add our hero pay, a $4 per hour increase, and a bonus of up to $1,000 to help support the people who are our frontline employees who are working in those very difficult situations, supporting our most vulnerable. More broadly, we've doubled what we call our gains payments. That goes to 200,000 of our lowest income seniors, and that was starting last month. We were able to double that payment again, as Mark pointed out, because there are additional costs that people are facing, particularly for our most vulnerable. We've provided $250 million to municipalities for programs like Meals on Wheels and other supports, because we know that through the town of Ajax and other municipalities and the region of Durham, they provide a lot of the very direct support to seniors. Just yesterday, we announced a change in dispensing fees. So one of the concerns that seniors who often have many prescriptions was that because of limitations on the size of the number of prescriptions people could get, that the costs had gone up. So we provided support to ensure that seniors don't have to pay, because we are having to have people get their go to the pharmacy more often to ensure that there's an adequate supply of all the necessary drugs and pharmaceuticals that we need. As well, today, when we talk about the economic opening up, we're also going to talk about the gradual and safe availability of some of the kinds of sports and other activities. Again, the much lower risk and lower impact and individual sorts of activities that I know seniors and many others in our community enjoy. So again, we've see that this is a very difficult time, and I have to say and echo what Mark and Sean said, that the community has been fantastic in terms of reaching out, and individual neighbors looking out for each other, of course doing it in a socially distancing appropriate way, but over the phone and otherwise checking in on our seniors to make sure that they are well, and that they're aware of the various supports that are being offered by all three levels of government.
Thank you. We're getting a ton of questions coming in from the community, so I'd just like to thank everyone who's joining us online right now. Continue to ask your questions below in the comment section on the live feed. So my next question is from Sam Patterson, and she'd like to know, what do you see the role of government being in sourcing PPE for businesses and training for proper use? We'll just start with Sean.
I think you're muted.
Sorry about that.
Perfect.
Municipally, we've had a lot of businesses that have donated very generously PPE, and we've been able to get that to the hospital, to Valley Cliff, to some of our other retirement residences, as well as into some of the other smaller businesses that weren't, I guess, really thought of in the beginning, such as the personal support workers that work in our community and go see people in their homes. So we've been doing that, and I have also been made aware of different businesses that had converted to start making PPE, and I made sure that that was spread very broadly throughout all the other mayors in the region, as well as through LUMCO as well, the Large Urban Mayors Caucus, which gets it pretty much across the province very, very quickly. So we've been doing that and reaching out and sharing information and sharing resources. I know not so much PPE, but in a lot of other things, our hygiene hub that we started has received incredible amount of donations, and we have got more than enough for our needs. So we've been dispersing that across the other different areas as well. And I'll just speak quickly to one thing that probably could have retained to the or pertained to the seniors question, but also this a little bit. We did have the virtual Mayor's Gala a couple of weeks ago, and we raised a considerable amount of money, and we put that directly into the community in areas of need, and some of that money would have been used for those purposes as well. So those are some of the things we've been doing at the local Ajax level.
And over to Mark.
Thanks, Rachel, and thanks, Sam, for the question. So we play really, and I have to say again, Rod's been talking about it, but the partnership that we've had with the provinces, particularly with Ontario, and specifically working with Rod, as he's done a phenomenal job as finance minister. One of our roles that we do federally is to centrally source and procure the personal protective equipment. And we've been able to work internationally as well as mobilizing Canadian industry. So we have a $2 billion initiative to mobilize Canadian industry to produce that personal protective equipment here in Canada. It's great because it allows industry that has downtime and is not producing other products to be creating personal protective gear. And we've also, you've seen internationally, we had Taiwan that had a surplus and was able to make a very substantial donation to us. We were able to navigate some difficult challenges with the United States. You remember the concerns with 3M, where we received a shipment of a massive shipment of the N95 respirators on April the 8th. So we've been working through those and being able to make sure that we're in a situation. I go down through the list of all the different partnerships, but the result is that we can get to the front lines and to the provinces and hopefully now it's moving to the businesses, get that equipment ready and available and centrally procured. And then as the provinces are rolling that out, I'm sure Rod's going to be talking about how as they're doing their rollout, explaining how those businesses should be using that equipment. So this is definitely going to be a one where we're responsible for centrally procuring it and then working with the provinces and the municipalities to make sure that it gets to where it's needed.
And over to Rod.
Thanks. So yes, just picking up where Mark left off, we have, and this has been a real partnership in terms of acquiring and now in a position, and I know the questions about businesses, but I often get asked about our healthcare facilities, our long-term care facilities, where now within 24 hours, we're able to make sure that our frontline health professionals have the PPE that they need. But as Mark pointed out, this is also going to be a longer-term issue, and particularly from a business perspective. Later on today, we'll be launching a web portal, and I'll give the address at the end of that, where people will be able to identify the various businesses that are being set up and that are now operating, producing PPE that Sean mentioned and that Mark mentioned, so that businesses will be able to procure PPE. And also, of course, the other part of the question was, what is the appropriate use of personal protective equipment? So we've now created over 90 guidelines for different types of businesses, because different types of businesses can have different requirements. And that information is available. Again, I'll give the one-stop web portal for that, where a business can say, okay, I am a particular type of business. Obviously, as I said, some of them will be opening in our first stage, some in the second stage, some in the third stage, but they can prepare now and look to that guidance in terms of both whether and how PPE should be used, and also just instructions, because one of the very vital things we learned through the work with our health sector is it's not just about having personal protective equipment, it's about making sure that it's used correctly. And worn correctly. So I'll just give that website, ontario.ca/coronavirus. So that's ontario.ca/coronavirus. That has all the resources of the Ontario government, all the most up-to-date information about cases, certainly self-assessments, but particularly for business supports. Later on today, there'll be that web portal so that businesses can actually identify the other businesses that are able to provide PPE. And you can also access the Ministry of Labour guidelines so you can understand the proper use in the business that you operate.
Thank you. Our next question is coming from Sharon Sheldon, and her question is there a source to tell us where new cases are coming from? I'll just start with Sean and go from there.
If you go to Durham.ca, the Durham Region website, there's a COVID-19 updater there. It's a great tracker. It has all the latest information and also allows you to look at each individual municipality. It breaks down as well whether it's how many are recovered and how many are in long-term care homes and all the information. So that is available, and that is a great tool. But just to the other part, Rachel, can you repeat the question, please? There was a part 2, I think, to it.
Yes, just wanted to know where there would be sources to find out where new cases are coming from in terms of COVID-19.
That's right. I don't know the answer to that one. That is coming from, I guess, the information that we're getting probably from the province, but maybe Minister Phillips can shed some light on that one.
Sure, Rachel. If you'd like, I can pick that up from there. That is a great the Durham Public Health website is a great location. We today, I was saying, is the lowest number of cases we've had in many weeks, 258 cases, which of course is a good sign about the hard work that everybody's doing. But one of the ongoing questions, and we have a health command table that works with our public health professionals, including Dr. Kyle in Durham, looking by locality where are cases coming from. Broadly speaking, there are 2 major sources, those within our long-term care facilities and those in the community. And the reason it's important, and I suspect why the question was asked, is community spread cases are very important to us to track so that we can make sure that we're able to do the right contact tracing. I have to say we are working with the federal government around how we can use various technologies and apps so that there can be a Canada-wide solution around how we can trace contacts. And just to go into a little bit more detail, that's important because when public health identifies a case in the community, one of the first things they need to do is determine if anybody else has been put at risk. Right now, we've hired many people, and again, working with the federal government. In fact, Health Canada provided us with another 250 individuals to join our contract tracing teams. But it's a very methodical but manual process of going and asking people, who have you seen if you've been in contact. So we're working collectively now, the provinces and the federal government, about how we can also use technology with that contact tracing. The ability to source where cases come from is going to be a very important part of our success in terms of reopening. Something that we've noticed, we've done a lot of homework, as you'd expect, with other jurisdictions that have opened up. And people often hear about places like South Korea and Taiwan where they've had success in reopening. But there have been certain realities in those cases. One has been that there are other flare-ups. So the virus is still in our communities, and there are going to be flare-ups. Just because we've had success at flattening the curve doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And the second is that the ability to trace those contacts is vital. And that's why we want to use all the traditional methods we used, as well as whatever technology makes sense, so that we can identify people who are at risk, make sure that they can be isolated for their own health and the rest of the health of the community. And also that means that we're going to be able to progress in terms of being able to become more active in our communities.
Thank you. And Mark, did you have anything to add to that?
Mark, you're muted, I think.
There you go. I had to cough and forgot that I muted myself. My apologies. Sharon, I'm just going to say that. Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to say, first of all, Rod's spot on. I just want to emphasize this because I know a lot of people are looking at the data and they want to know, what do I need to know where this is going? So yeah, as Rod is explaining, there's a couple of things that are occurring. One, because of everybody's incredible adherence to the guidelines that have been put out, as Rod said, those numbers are really coming off. And as we see them coming off and as things reopen, one of the things that we've been working with the provinces on doing is getting the testing ready and getting the contact tracing up to speed. Because what happens is as we begin to open up, if the case numbers are low and we have a very aggressive testing, then we can isolate where exactly a particular new outbreak occurred, contact trace it, and isolate it so that it doesn't become something that becomes a significant community spread. Because community spread is very dangerous, very concerning. So it's getting that capacity up. So the numbers have to come down, but we also have to see that testing and contact tracing there. So investing in that technology. If you want to see nationwide numbers in exactly what's happening in different parts of the country, then you can certainly take a look at StatsCan, which aggregates all of this data and looks at it by province. As I say, the picture in Ontario is really improving. It's very heartening. I'm very excited, Rod, for your news later on today. But that vigilance is going to be key. We can't get ahead of this. We can't hear this and then think, okay, blow out the doors. I'm time to return to normal life. And we all want to. I with my own family, every day I'm asked in the morning, so when is this over? Like, when can I do X? When can I do Y? I'm sick of this. I want that. And we're all in that spot, but it's, we don't want to blow out all the success we've had to this point. We've worked so hard to really flatten this thing and to work together to be where we are. So we just need to keep taking that slow and steady path, and we'll get there.
Thank you. So the next question is for the mayor, and this is from Jordan Black. He'd just like to know, is tree trimming still happening within the town?
Oh boy, I'm not sure. We are operating at reduced staff levels. We have had to lay off a number of staff, being our rec centers are closed and that type of thing. So we're operating on reduced services. I know we have reallocated a number of staff from rec and some other places to operations to assist with our litter cleanups and our grass cutting and all that. I have to assume that the tree trimming will still be going ahead, but I will have to confirm that and get back to you.
Thank you. We can provide some more information in the feed as well. So the next question is for all of you. This resident would like to know, how has this epidemic changed the day-to-day of your life as a politician now? So I'll start with you, Sean.
Well, I'm not cutting very many ribbons these days. I mean, other than attending business openings, if anything, I actually think I might be having more meetings because we're more accessible. And one of the things that we've just decided to do is we're going to actually go through the summers. Generally, we take a summer break because people travel and they go away, and trying to get quorum and staff together is not as easy. But now, everybody's here and everybody has time. So we might as well continue the work. So it hasn't really changed very much other than I don't travel. I mean, we don't have to get in our cars to go to meetings. I do meetings right here in my dining room all the time. And to look at a positive, and I've said this actually at Lumco on Friday when I was speaking with Minister Clark, I said I hope that the ability for us to still maintain video conferencing is still allowed after the restrictions are lifted, because it's quite valuable actually to municipalities. It's a cost saving and efficiency measure that has really worked well for us. So, and it works well for the environment too. It gets more cars off the road. It reduces emissions, and it actually saves us quite a bit of money. And when we're talking about, for instance, the Lumco meeting on Friday, trying to get 29 mayors together from across Ontario is a difficult thing. So we have much better turnout, much better attendance, but we don't have to worry about booking convention centers and food and travel and hotels and all these other things. So it is a very valuable tool. But back to the original question, it hasn't really changed very much. We are still business as usual. We are still working, if not just with some reduced staff and people working from home. One thing I did want to mention that sort of tied into Chris Wheeler's original question about business is we are still very much open for business. We are still working very hard to process development applications and things like that. So when restrictions are lifted and construction starts fully again and we're ready to go, we're ready to hit the ground running. So we are doing what we can with a little bit limited resources, but it hasn't really changed very much.
Thank you. And over to Mark.
Well, thank you. It's a very kind question, and I appreciate that. This is a time I know Rod and Sean and other members of council and the folks. I've been really blown away by how hard they're all working, and really since the mid of March, it's been a full on sprint. And so that's taxing. I think it's you want to try to do as good a job as you can for folks. You want to try to help them out as much as you can. And the reality is, as much as this is stressful, there are people, the sacrifices they're making, the things that they're doing to put themselves in harm's way. It's truly humbling. For me, I'm still going back and forth to Ottawa because as the whip, I have to go there every Wednesday. So I go typically on a Tuesday and back late Wednesday night. And but I'm home so much more. I have to say, if I can, say if there's a positive, two of my adult kids are come back and are self isolating with us. So cooking with them, watching movies with them, playing games. That's been pretty fantastic, and I've enjoyed that. And I do enjoy being home a lot more. And it's a big change. I think that like everybody, for me. There's things I love. I love concerts. I love, theater. I love, being out in the world. I love being social. That's how I get my energy. So I think like a lot of people, I'm really anxious for this to be all over and to get back to normal and do some of the things that I love. But finding a lot of things in it that are pretty beautiful and awesome too. And, I guess that's the trick in all of this is to try to look at the positives and, the time that I'm getting with my family, I just wouldn't otherwise get, which I feel very blessed for.
Thank you. The next question is from Joan, and her question is, with so many employees working... Oh, sorry, Rod.
Yeah, Rod, we don't want to know about your personal life, Rod. It's we know you don't have one. As finance minister, Rod doesn't have a personal life, right? So we just skip right over that.
Mark gave such a good answer. I was worried about what I was going to say anyway.
I must say the volume of questions that are coming in are extensive. So it's great that we're getting through so many. So I'll just pass it over to Rod to share his thoughts. Thank you.
I'll be super quick. I think Mark did. There are things about this that are going to be good in terms of the time we can spend with family. Obviously, there are some people for whom the sacrifices they're making make anything that the group of us are doing pale in comparison. The reality for me is because of the daily briefings that the Premier and the Minister of Health and I often give. I am spending time at the office. That's where I am today. It's a lot quicker to get here than it used to be. But I think like a lot of people in a public setting, we are isolated just like everybody else. So I think one of the challenges that we're trying to do is make sure that we stay in contact through my community office and through Zoom. I've become reasonably Zoom proficient, but yes, the drive time is it's much shorter now to get down to Queen's Park.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Our next question that I alluded to is from Joan, and it's for the three of you. With so many employees now working from home, is there work being done at all levels to strengthen broadband and cell network infrastructure? So we'll start with Sean.
I hope so, is the answer. Broadband is a huge problem, even for like municipalities like Ajax. But I know Pickering, for instance, I was speaking with Deputy Mayor Kevin Ash about, they've got people in places like Claremont that are having to use their phones, and they're getting $2,000-$3,000 a month overage bills because they're lacking broadband. So it is a big problem. I've brought forward, and I'm going to keep promoting things like with the lexicon and with the region. I would love to see us partner and figure out a way that, for instance, every time we open up a road, we put in fiber. I mean, I don't know why we're not doing that. It's not a new idea, and I think it's something we really need to be doing. We've talked at the region about freeing up some of our reserve funds, because my word to them is these monies are better invested in the ground. We're getting very, very low rates of return on interest on this money. But we could be pre-servicing employment lands. We could be putting fiber in the ground. We could be addressing our sewage capacity issues in the downtown core. These are all very important things. And by being proactive and making that investment, maybe we can't connect all that fiber right away, but over time, we'll have done enough roads that we will be able to connect that up and light all that up and be able to move this file forward. It's been something that's been talked about for a long time, and we really need to take seriously and move forward. And I think the federal government, I've heard, has something coming on this now. So I don't want to speak to that too much, but I can tell you we at the region are definitely willing partners, and we're definitely aware, and it's something that we really want to address. We don't have the resources to do it all ourselves, but we certainly want to work with our upper levels of government to get this addressed.
Thank you. And over to Mark.
Well, we are one of the most connected countries in the world, and in Canada, through successive governments, has made really important investments to do that. And we are continuing that tradition. The investments in the rural broadband program to make sure that all of our communities are connected. We're making historical investment to make sure that all the communities. We don't have a big rural area in Ajax; it's about one concession. But when Sean's talking about some of those areas in Pickering, there are a lot of areas that have real issues with connectivity. And when we're seeing the world move more and more to virtual platforms, and I think there's no doubt that this pandemic is going to accelerate that move of working from home and working remotely and working through virtual platforms. That connectivity is so important. We've also gone to cell providers and said that our data costs in Canada are way too high. We've mandated a 25% reduction in data fees. You're already seeing those data costs coming way down, putting data caps in so that we can see significant reductions in costs there, and getting ready for the new technologies so that we're working with private sector industry on bringing the 5G technology. It's sad. There's all these internet rumors and things. Of course, 5G just isn't ready. The idea that that 5G is being installed right now. Unfortunately, 5G is still a few years away, but it's going to be an absolutely vital piece of our infrastructure in mobilizing the Internet of Everything and to expanding that connectivity. So those investments are absolutely critical, and Joan is absolutely right to keep saying we need to keep pushing there.
Mm-hmm.
And over to Rod.
Yeah, so it is become very apparent just how important these investments are. As a provincial government, we've committed hundreds of millions of dollars and included this in the conversations we've had. Again, very, very productive thus far with the federal government in terms of what is the infrastructure for a 21st century community. And I think there's a very good progress to be expected on that front. The other thing we've seen is the vital expansion of things. What was traditionally called telehealth, but was through the telephone. But now a lot of the health services that we're talking about are dealt with digitally. And so particularly in the broader Durham region, I mean, people might be surprised inside the town of Ajax, you don't have to go that far before these sorts of issues become significant. So it's an area where we're quite focused, where we've dedicated hundreds of millions of dollars around that expansion around the province. And I think this experience is just going to accelerate the importance of making it available.
Thank you. So the next question is for all of you. There's been a number of initiatives that have been implemented during COVID-19, which are temporary. Do we see any of these measures or services that will be made permanent? Sean?
Well, I just spoke of one being the use of video and being able to work from home, and that is something that has been proven now to be very, very effective. As far as some of the others, I can't think of anything right now off the top of my head as far as the municipal level. Like I said, we are operating at a reduced service level, so we're not giving or performing all the normal services that we would do. So I don't have an answer for that one off the top of my head.
I'll just pass that over to Mark or Rod. Do you have anything to add to that?
Sure, Rachel. Well, it's a great question, and I mean, I think as we have success, a lot of us are trying to look, with some clairvoyance into the future to understand what exactly we're going to be dealing with. I think what it's fair to say is this pandemic has it hit the country incredibly hard, emotionally, financially. It's been incredibly disruptive, and we've seen, job losses of about 3 million. To give that in context, in the preceding 4.5 years, we had gained 1 million jobs to the Canadian economy. So to see just the devastation of this pandemic is so difficult. And the way that we see the programs that we're engaging right now is to really be that trampoline, to make sure that this it's not a pit that people fall into, but this is something we bounce off and rebound from, and we come out strong. And so I think, I actually really am incredibly optimistic. I think that, Ontarians and Canadians and Ajaxians are all demonstrating wonderful resilience. We're focusing on science. We're listening at all levels to what needs to be done. And once we move through this effectively, there's going to be so much built up capacity, innovation, and opportunity that I really believe the economy is going to come roaring back. I'm a huge believer in our economy. I'm really encouraged by the partnerships that we're seeing developing at the different levels of government, the way people are working together, the way industry is evolving and innovating. So a lot of these programs are based on sort of stopgap. So a lot of them we won't need. A lot of them, I think we're going to move to a place that we don't need. But the other priorities, and this is important, the things that we do need to take a look at are, how do we better protect our most vulnerable populations? How do we, what lessons can we take from some of the things that have happened that are really devastating, that maybe we had some blind spots to. I look at it federally, and I think there's some areas I didn't realize we were as vulnerable as we were, and watching people suffer. Anything we can do to stop that. I think there's going to be some important changes that come out of that, and some of that might, some of it might come from some of those existing programs. But we just, I think we're so focused right now on trying to make sure we get out of this and make sure that people are supported and that their families are supported and that people are not suffering. That it's a little too early to talk about what exactly that's going to look like on the other side. But I can tell you that I have great optimism with the conversations that I'm having that we're going to meet that challenge and that we're going to come out of this much stronger.
Thank you. And over to Rod.
Yeah, I really appreciate the question. I think on some areas, exactly as Mark said, we have learned clearly the areas of long-term care are going to be areas of focus. I'm not saying that the programs we have now, but we're going to need to look at how we do that better. We're getting some very positive reaction, quite frankly, to some of the things that we've done as a government with regards to some of the rules that were in place that have been taken away. The number of people who seem to like the idea that the restaurant can deliver, a bottle of wine with a pizza. It's just, I think these are the sorts of things that we'll have to consider. They're temporary for now, but we'll have to consider going forward. But I have to say, in my role as finance minister, and I know that Mark's colleague Bill Morneau feels the same way, we also we are in a situation where our governments have had to do the right thing, which is make sure we fill these gaps, we provide the services and support that are available, we support our healthcare system. We were on track. I was about to deliver a budget back in March that was going to show a track to balancing our budget by 2023. Clearly now we have over a $20 billion deficit, and that was the result of, I think, the right thing to do, which was supporting the needs of Ontarians. But we will collectively have to look to how we are going to be able to afford the extension of any of the things that aren't temporary. As I think Mark has said, it's not right now. The priority is getting through this. We are going to get through it. We're actually going to be able to move from that stage of just reacting and dealing with the health issue to now starting to deal with some of the economic issues. But over time, we will have to make sure as well that the financial sustainability of the province, the municipalities, and the federal government is back in place. Quite frankly, it's the prudent fiscal management and that has given the ability for us to do what we've done, the federal government to be able to do what they've done. And that's what we need to be sure of, because we'll get through this, but we always have to plan as well for the next challenge as well. So really appreciate the question. We're learning every day from what's working. And I think there are some things that will stay the same, but we are also going to have to eventually get back to a place where we're able to balance the expenditures with the monies coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. So we're coming near the end of the hour now. We're at about 11:55. So I'd just like to move into a final question here. And this is for everyone. What measures will be put into place to freeze increases for businesses and residents? And I'll just start with Sean.
Well, we at the municipal level aren't really in a position to do that for most of the things. The only thing that we really put on businesses is property taxes, and that's a direct reflection of what the cost is actually to run the town and the region and to provide the services that we're providing. We have actually, there's a LUMCO meeting being held right now, start at 11:30. So there will be a request made to the federal and provincial governments regarding helping us get through some of the things that we've been addressing, because like businesses, we have experienced the same revenue losses and the same employment concerns and everything else that other businesses have been experiencing. But the difference is we are not allowed to run a deficit, and we have legislated level of services that we have to maintain. So it's so that will be coming today. But as far as other businesses, we're going to continue to work with them. Um, with the tax situation, I mean, it costs what it costs to run the town. We're always looking for efficiencies. We've done what we can to sort of mitigate that through this crisis and keep our costs and our losses as low as we can. And I'm looking to the federal provincial partners that we have to sort of help us get through this. If we come out of this and it won't be a $20 billion deficit. Mr. Phillips, ours is right now at the region. I think we're at about a 20 million. I think right now, but I mean, we need to come up with that somewhere, and our only real revenue stream is property taxes outside of the gas tax. So it's definitely a challenge. We are going to do what we can. As far as if we still have to look at deferring penalties and interest, we will do that. We will look at supporting in every way that we can. And that's all we can do for now. Again, it's a 3-level. Well, in our case, with upper and lower municipal levels, it's a 4-tiered government, and we all need to work together.
Thank you. And over to Mark.
Well, similarly, most of the controls around consumer protection on pricing are at the provincial level. But as I mentioned, we've been working, letting telecommunication companies know that data generally, but specifically during this process, has to be much more accessible and cost less. So before all this went, there was the 25% reduction, but we've been working with telecommunication companies on reducing their costs. We also were working with banks on allowing people to defer their mortgages and give folks breaks at a commercial level. So even though we don't have legislative responsibility, we've been working with different areas of industry to try to ask them to step up to the plate where they're large enough to do so, to be able to give breaks to consumers and to be able to protect them through this period. But I just want to focus, because Rod said, and I'm going to turn it over to Rod, but Rod said, and he's so right, that, look, Canada was in a very enviable position with respect to its debt. We have the best debt to GDP ratio of any nation in the G7. The parliamentary budget officer, who's always very harsh and should be, talked about the resiliency of Canada's position vis-a-vis our ability to take on debt. So we're in a position where we can do that, and where we're going to come out still with the best debt to GDP ratio, I believe, once this is over. But we got to get out of it, and we need to build up our economy, and we are going to have to curtail spending on the other side. But we are going to do that while not asking more from Canadians, because we've got to find that internally. People are not going to be in a position on the other side of this when we're recovering to be dealing with increases in taxes. I don't think so. I think that it's going to be difficult, but we've got to really try to contain costs and make sure that life is as affordable as possible for people as we come out of this and as we move into a recovery phase.
Thank you. And over to Rod.
Mark mentioned when it comes to not the government related costs, but the other costs of people's lives, we did set up the price gouging hotline. Again, you can get that access to that. But sort of famously, someone told the Premier in a press conference that $3 wipes were being sold for $30 at a local retailer, and that's had thousands and thousands of calls, I should say, and there's been orders and charges as a result. So anybody who's seeing that from the private sector perspective, that the web address I gave before, ontario.ca/coronavirus, can access that. In terms of what's been done so far, some have mentioned the deferral of various costs for businesses and individuals, including supporting municipalities with their deferral on property taxes, the reduction of the time of use pricing so that there's been lower energy prices while people are at home, because obviously we're all using more power when we're at home all the time. But I think this is it's going to be an important question going forward. It links up to the question that was asked before about the choices that government has about how it pays for things. And obviously, from our perspective, we are not a government that's been in favor of higher taxes and have done our best to reduce them where possible. But we are all going to have to look at what the situation is after. And again, right now certainly is not the time. People need more burden, and there's no desire on our part to put more burden on individuals or businesses. We want to support people through this.
Thank you. So I just want to be very mindful of everybody's time now. We're just past 12 o'clock, and I know everyone has a busy day ahead of them. So I'd just like to turn it over to Mark and then Rod just for closing comments, and then I'll just leave it with the mayor to close off the event. Mark?
Well, Rachel, to you, the town of Ajax, to Mayor Collier, to council, thank you for this opportunity and thank you for the work that you're doing. I say it as often as I can because I think it's important. Rod, thank you for the work you're doing as finance minister and the work the province of Ontario is doing through this. It's cooperating and working together that we're going to get through this. And we talked about all through this, the incredible resilience of Canadians, and we're seeing it locally. The video was just wonderful at the beginning. People making masks, people, finding ways to get food to seniors, people staying home, people calling in on a loved one that they're worried about, somebody who might not have the same support that they do. Make sure if you know somebody who needs support or needs help, call us. Our office, I'm so fortunate to have an incredible team who's been working nonstop since the mid of March. And we've been dealing with everything from accessing Canadians to benefits to getting people home who are abroad. And we're here to help you in any way that we can to try to make this journey as easy as possible. I just really want everybody to take care of themselves and the people that they love. Continue to stay optimistic. You have very good reason to do so. Very bright, wonderful days are ahead of us. We just need to keep sticking together and supporting one another, and we're going to get to that time. So take care of one another and please stay in touch.
Thank you so much for participating today. We really appreciate your time. And over to Rod.
So Rachel, thanks for hosting us today. Mayor Collier and council members, thank you for your leadership. It is exactly what the doctor ordered in this case, and it's been a real great to see the cooperative and collaborative work. Mark, enjoy always working with you, but it is, I agree with you, the spirit of partnership federally, provincially, and locally, and the great work the federal government's been doing to make sure that we support Canadians and Ontarians and the people of Ajax has been well recognized, and I recognize it now. I'm also optimistic. I think I'm excited today that it happened to be the day that we're going to be starting into this next phase, where we're going to be starting in a safe and gradual way to reopen. It's wonderful that it was the day that we're here, and I got to share that with my fellow Ajaxians, on that special day. I share the optimism that you hear from Mark and you hear from our mayor, but we are going to be in this situation for a while. The fact that we've had success, that because of our health professionals, because of the work of all Ontarians, we've been able to see that curve flatten. That's the good news. The other reality, though, is that we're going to have to continue to practice the same physical distancing. We're going to continue to practice that hygiene, washing our hands. We're going to have to continue to take care of each other through this. And we are going to see occasional setbacks. We are going to see flare-ups because there's a virus there. But our health system is in the position to support us. Our public health care officials are in the position to support us. The resources and the PP and other things are in the position to support us through this. And most importantly, we're all in the position to support each other together. So I remain very optimistic. I again commend the town for this forum and keeping it up. And to everybody who's out there, take care of each other, take care of family, take care of your neighbors. We're going to get through this together, and there really are very sunny days ahead for Ajax and for Ontario and for Canada on the other side of this. So thanks to everybody for all their support and all their hard work. And I look forward, sooner than later, I'll look forward to seeing some of us, maybe all of us together in person. I think that'll be a great day when we get to do that.
Thank you again very much for your time and for participating. And I'll just turn it over to the mayor to wrap it all up. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Rachel. And thank you to everyone who tuned in today and to everyone who asked some questions. They were excellent questions. We'll endeavor to answer all of them over the next little while with some help from staff. Thanks again to our local representatives, Honorable Mark Holland, MP, and Honorable Rod Phillips, Minister of Finance and MPP for Ajax. We're so fortunate to have you working on our behalf, and thank you for all that you're doing. I want to share a few photos from the heart of the Ajax illumination last weekend because I thought it was such a cool surprise that staff pulled off for our community. I hope you all know how appreciated your efforts have been, whether you're on the front lines or part of the Operation Stay Home Ajax. Don't forget to tag us in all your photos, please. And Ministers Phillips and Holland, we're all looking forward to the long weekend. You've spoken to, the weather's supposed to be decent. The timing couldn't be better. I think we all anticipate that the Premier will announce some steps forward today and easing restrictions. The town will follow suit, allowing residents to play, catch, kick a ball around, walk their dogs in our green spaces. And to assist, we're opening some parking lots. Stay tuned for more formal announcements. Please note that we're still closely following the province and public health recommendations about minimum group size and ask that you maintain the 6-foot distance at all times. I do want to stress, though, together we've made significant progress in flattening the curve. It is important that we continue. This is not over, and please be diligent so that we don't step backwards in our fight. While we're following the required distancing and gathering recommendations, the folks at Ajax Fire want to remind you that no fireworks permits have been allowed for the long weekend, unfortunately. Instead, we're partnering with SNAP to bring communities across the province together to view virtual fireworks on Monday, May the 18th at 8 o'clock p.m. Tuning in could help set a world record for the biggest augmented reality event, and you can download the free Snap app and enjoy the show. There's more details on this on our website at www.ajax.ca. We're all looking forward to getting back to business and seeing our families. I'm looking forward to more good news coming from all our collective hard work very soon. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for this special end to our At Home with Ajax Council series. We thank you so much for tuning in and for spending this hour with us. Please continue to follow the town online at ajax.ca, on our Facebook accounts, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube for all the latest information and updates regarding Ajax services, programs, and COVID-19. Thank you very much and have a great day, everyone.